Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second Student Chapters Development Workshop. It is such a pleasure to meet you all in today's event. We are going to start our event at 1 p.m. GMT. So all participants, please rename your Zoom name into university _name _first topic number _second topic number. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Olivier.
Hello, nice to meet you. Lina?
Yes, Mr. Olivier. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening.
Oh, hi.
Bonjour, Olivier.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, Olivier.
Bonjour, Wally.
Welcome everyone to the Student Chapters Development Workshop, the biggest annual event of SPUISC and SPIFPSC, which provides an optimal setting for idea exchanging and advice sharing between various SPE student chapters from across the globe. It is such a pleasure to meet you all, and we are very grateful for your attendance and also your participation. My name is Reisha Aniza.
And my name is Gideon.
And today we are going to be the MC for today's event. And first of all, we would like to thank all of the student chapters invited, namely Universitas Indonesia, University of Houston, IFP School, Gulfkin University, Pandit Dindayal Energy University, Texas A&M University of Qatar, Asia Pacific University, Institute of Technology 10 November, Kuwait University, University of Stavanger, Macquarie University, and Kumba University, Technical University of Denmark, Nile University of Nigeria, University of Zagreb, University of Bahrain, and Palawan State University, Institute of Technology Bandung, and Batanas State University. Before we begin the first workshop, we would also like to welcome the Chairman of SPE France, Mr. Olivier Lodeho, and the Regional Director of SPE Asia Pacific, Mr. Henricus Herwin. Welcome, and thank you for attending SPE Student Chapters Development Workshop. We would also like to thank all of the participants that have made the time to attend this event. We hope that you're able to get new insights in today's event. And now, we're going to listen to the opening remarks from Mr. Henricus Herwin, And for Mr. Henricus, the time is all yours.
Thank you very much, Raisa. So good morning, America. Good afternoon, Africa and Europe. And good evening, Asia and Australia. I'm very pleased to speak before you today, since I believe that the student chapter development workshop is a very important and useful event for SPE. One of the key strong points of SPE is its presence in every corner of the world, and the network should be used by all professionals in oil and gas industry, as well as all students that will enter the industry to develop themselves. As you know, the energy transition and the fact that the world needs huge amount of energy require the industry to get the best talents. SPE student chapter is in best position to answer this challenge, and you are the future challenge of our industry. My tips for all of you, I have only 4 tips, and I would like to share with you today is, first, be very good at your study domain. Hard skill is very important in your early career, and good grade will open job opportunity. Second, write SPE paper and attend SPE events. Third, build network. Again, SPE bring opportunity to open network not only in your respective countries, but also around the world with an event like what we are having today. And fourth, volunteer. You will be surprised with what you get in return. I think I will stop my talk here. Have a fruitful workshop, and don't forget to have fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henricus, for the opening remarks. Now, we are also going to have the opening remarks from Mr. Olivier Lodeho. And for Mr. Olivier, the time is yours.
Hello everyone, I'm very pleased to be with you today. And as Henry said, so this student this event that you are organizing is very important, that you will be able to share ideas and initiatives that all of you are carried out, and to take benefits of this is very important to be open-minded and share all your ideas and so on. And you will see that, as Henry said as well, you will receive a lot of in return. So that something I would like to share with you, that at your beginning of career is very important to explore all the other areas that we are close to yours, in order to capture some new ideas and any fresh ideas to feed your thinking and your mind in order to help you to develop your skills and to develop your career opportunities as well, because this is out of your comfortable zone that the innovation is sitting, and it's very important to be open-minded and be curious all of your life. And it's important also as well that you are learning all your days and your time, because this is feeding your thinking and this will help you to create new things and to be clever in your career development. So that's for me, and happy to have a further discussion with you in order to share my experience and how I can support you in your objective. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olivier, for the opening remarks. We are also glad to have you here. And next, we would also like to inform you guys about the general rules for today's event.
Yes, and these are the general rules for today's event. Participants will be muted during the presentations, but will be able to ask questions via the chat room. Participants are not allowed to share screen. It is mandatory to always turn on your webcam. Recording this webinar is not allowed. And then finally, have fun and participate actively. Our speakers for today are Professor Tom Blassingame, the President of the Society of Petroleum Engineers International, 2021, and a professor at Texas A&M University, as well as Mr. Robert Moukhametov as the External Vice President of SPSC, the ex-external, and currently the Junior Reservoir Engineer at Wintershall Dea. We would like to thank all the speakers for joining us in this session. In today's event, There will be a Woo Club game session with an Amazon gift card worth 10 euros for 3 top participants. So to shorten the time, you can join the link on the Zoom chat now, but please note that we are going to have a game session later, and make sure to use your real name as the username.
Next, I'll read the rundown for today's event. Today's rundown is as shown on the screen. We begin with an opening remark from the chairman of SPE France and SPE Asia Pacific Regional Director, and then we will proceed with the keynote speaker's presentation by Mr. Robert. Then we will move on to the breakout room session, which will be divided into 7 topics. And then after the first breakout room is over, we will return to the main room, have a quick break, and continue to the second keynote speaker's presentation, which will be brought by Professor Tom Blessingame. And next up, we will also have the second breakout room session, which was also divided into 7 topics. And after that, we'll return to the main session once again to play the Woo Clap game. Make sure you guys can win the game because, as mentioned before, there will be a prize for 3 winners. And last but not least, we will continue to do the closing and photo session, which is the last segment of the event. Participants are also encouraged to drop their questions in the group chat throughout the speaker's presentation. As well, we will pick a few questions during the Q&A session after the presentation. And don't forget to mention your name, country, and also your student chapter before you ask the question.
Today, allow us to introduce our moderators for each workshop session, Omon and Lynn. All right, without further ado, I'd like to invite Omon to start the first workshop session. Omon, the time is yours.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gideon. First of all, thank you very much all for joining us today. It's such a great audience and such a great pool of speakers. I am Oman, a Vice President at IFP School SPE Student Chapter. And I'm very pleased to welcome Robert Moukhametov, our ex-officer, now Junior Reservoir Engineer at Wintershall Dea. Robert, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Oman. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I will now share my screen and proceed with my presentation, if you allow me to do so.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Thanks for passing it over. And hello, guys. Hi to everyone. I'm really happy to see such a great attendance and a larger turnout this year than last year. So it's good to see this workshop growing. My name is Robert Moukhametov. I'll talk a bit about my journey because it relates to the topic that I'm going to present today, which is career pathways for the future of the energy industry. In essence, I'll give a few tips and things that I thought of throughout my journey with regards to what I can advise you guys, depending on which stage of your academic career you guys are on. But I'll start off by first of all saying it's a big honor to be on the same keynote speakers list as Dr. Tom Blessingame, who really contributed greatly to the industry, a very active participant, and last year's SPE President. So really a big honor and a big shout out to Dr. Tom Blessingame for also willing to present in this event. But let's go through the agenda real quick, if I can move on. Yeah, so for the agenda, we'll talk a bit about my journey. And from there, we'll gather a couple of advice points that I can give you guys for your career pathways and your approach to getting your securing your job after your academic careers. For that, we'll also need to look a little bit at energy industry history and pull out some rules for the industry that you need to understand. We'll also look at the industry now and sort of examine your game table. So what's the situation in the market now and where are you standing in that market? And then we'll look at who's in demand in terms of an ideal graduate candidate for an oil and gas company. So to start off with my journey, I had a fantastic 6 years, from the beginning of my university career to now working. Had lots of experiences throughout the world with lots of fantastic people from different cultural backgrounds. And I'm really thankful for it. And I'm really thankful for the universities for being for offering such amazing opportunities, especially IFP School with their field courses and Texas A&M University with their labs and internships that they were able to support us in getting. And Currently, I'm also having a fantastic time at Wintershall Dea, which is Europe's largest independent oil and gas producer. And at this point, I do want to note that whilst corporate communications allowed me to present here with the Wintershall Dea logo, I do not necessarily represent the views of Wintershall Dea as a company. Everything I'm presenting here is my own personal views and not representative of the company's opinion on matters and affairs that are listed here. So for my journey, yes, I've traveled many countries and I am planning to travel more. For that, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about the SPEED program at Wintershall Dea, which is a graduate program for engineers of all types, reservoir, production, drilling. We have everyone. We even have finance and non-engineers within the graduate program. And it stretches over 2 years and it has 4 assignments. These 4 assignments could be in various locations across the company. For me, the first one is in January. So at the moment I'm in Hamburg, and then I'm planning to go to Norway and afterwards Netherlands. And it's been a fantastic experience. It's very, it puts you in different departments for each assignment and each project. And I think that it's a great learning experience and it's something that I think each of you should look into. I think we just had this year's round of applications close, but definitely for next year, I would recommend you guys consider this company. So for my university background, I started off in Texas A&M in main campus. I did my year there. So that's USA, that's in my stage of life, that was, let me get on my pointer right over here. But then as you can see, I transferred to Qatar because Texas A&M University has a Qatar campus and my family was there. And I ended up graduating from the Qatar campus with a degree in Bachelor's of Science in Petroleum Engineering. I was able to then continue on with the Master's of Science in Reservoir Geoscience and Engineering, where I participated actively in the SPE student chapter. And actually during my year there at IFP school in the SPE was when I created the, co-created with, along with my colleague from UI, Nafabila Safira, shout out to her, fantastic person, where we co-created the first student chapter development workshop last year. So I know all the ins and outs and I know the stats for how many people attended last year, and it's great to see that this year there's even more attendance. From my experiences, I had 2 experiences at Shell and 1 at Equinor, but I also had other experiences and I'll get into that in just a bit. And I also felt like pointing out my lifestyle, and here it's not even necessarily to talk about myself, but yeah, here are my hobbies, but it's more about to show that I value people's lifestyles. I think it's actually important to have hobbies and proactive hobbies and physical hobbies as well. I think that's actually one of the big advices that I could give to people to retain hobbies and things like that, because employers are looking more and more, not just at your academic and professional experiences, but also as who you are as a person. They want to see if you're adaptable, if you could easily learn something, if you're open to new ideas, and if you're proactive in your lifestyle in general. And because of that, I think it's important to have hobbies, to maintain them, and it's not an easy task as well. And it sounds peculiar to be pointing this out, because we always treat professional academic experiences so much more superior to what you're doing on the side, but I think it has an equal contribution. So for my journey, to kind of map it out over the 6 years, starting from when I graduated high school and joined the bachelor's program and finishing with when I graduated, you could see that I had a pretty tight timeline. And from here, I think I can, we can all draw a couple of advice points that we can, take for each one of us, depending on which situation each one of you is in and which year you guys are studying in. But what I would recommend for the first year and what I have done for myself was I made my first year, for example, very light because I actually very much agree with the SPE directors that did the intro just right now. When they said to focus on your academics and your education, it really is a foundation. And to put it into practical terms, it's even just a prerequisite to have good grades. You can sort of treat it like that for yourself if that helps you mentally to understand that, okay, I need to have this sort of minimum grade if I even want to apply for this tier of jobs. And usually for example, for operator roles, you would need a GPA equivalent of 3.5 and above out of 4 to be even competitive for the operator roles. And so that's sort of what I set myself as a benchmark. And that's why in my freshman year, understanding that, I don't have any specific experience at the moment, I realized that it's better to focus on the education in the first year and build a good academic foundation where you have a strong GPA in your first year that then can kind of boost your average throughout the other years. Because trust me, it will surely drop as your workload increases, as technically the subjects will become more difficult. So over here, after mid-July in 2018, I entered my second year. Pardon me, after mid-July in 2017, I entered my second year. And by the end of that year, what I was able to do is actually secure an internship. And I think this is another big piece of advice. And don't worry, I'll kind of note it at the very end as well. But after your second year, it's really crucial to get an internship. It could be an internship in any STEM industry. So it could be in a technology firm, anything computer science related. It doesn't really matter. This first internship will help you so much to get your second internship in your penultimate year. And your penultimate year is the year before you graduate. So especially the summer before you graduate. So if you're doing a 4 years bachelor's program, that would be the summer after your third year, would be your penultimate year internship. And this one is really important because this one could actually be an assessed internship. And so to get that one, it would be really good to already have one internship by the end of your third year under your belt. And for that, I recommend taking your second year summer off to work somewhere in a STEM industry to get your second internship. It'll really help with getting the third one, and then the third one will help you with either getting a master's or a job. It sort of has a knock-on effect, so it's really good to start early because a lot of people realize a bit too late, and then only by the third year do they get their first internship. But really what gives you the competitive advantage is to get it in your second year. In addition to that, you can see I also had a part-time job in Qatar Foundation. I was working in the residence, and I actually eventually got promoted in that job. And the piece of advice I want to give here is, any job is actually good. Employers really like to see, even if you have non-energy industry related positions, not even STEM, just in general, any part-time job shows that you're able to commit for a long term. You're showing also to your potential future employer that other companies or organizations were willing to hire you and liked you enough to stick around with you and keep you hired. And so it has only positives. And in addition to that, you literally could get money from a part-time position. I was making money on the side. And depending on your financial situation, you could use that money to save up for a master's or just save up to survive the first couple of months after your bachelor's so that you could be at least independent while you find a job, right? Financially independent, I mean. So yeah, part-time positions are great. And then you can also see in January of my third year, so halfway through my third year, I got a research position. Now, another piece of advice here would be, sorry, my throat dries up. Another piece of advice here would be to get a research position either in your third year or your fourth year if you're planning to do a master's. Especially masters in North America. I know some of them require previous research knowledge. Some of them even require a test. I think it's called the GRA test or something like that. General Research Admission. I don't remember the abbreviation, but in general, if you want to do a master's, or especially if you're thinking long-term a PhD, starting your research career early on is a really good idea as well, I believe. And it kind of hedges you against also if you are looking, for example, for a job, but your backup is to do a master's. This research position could hedge you in case you don't get a job, that you will have a better success rate to get a master's degree, especially one that values research. And the one, maybe some masters, for example, I had a specialized one in IFB school, so research wasn't that important, but for some masters, it really is. And for those, research is really crucial. And yeah, after my third year, I got another internship at Shell as well. That was my penultimate year internship. This one is sort of even like, I would say, a must-have after your third summer. If your university doesn't require, I think you should set yourself a goal that you get an internship. And this one already, it would be always good if you're applying for the energy industry to have at least one work experience in the energy industry. And here you can see that before the tone, I would say even in 2015 or 2010 would be like, priority all energy industry internships. But now I'm saying it's fine to have STEM ones. It's just have one at least that's energy related. And the other ones could be just STEM related. And I'll get to in a sec why I'm so focused on STEM as well. But in any case, in May, I graduated and then I started IFB school. And here kind of, you see, I've had several positions lined up for me after my bachelor's in Texas A&M. I had things going on with Total, with Schlumberger, and with Shell. But they all fell apart because COVID hit in early 2020. And by the time I was graduating in May, there were hiring freezes and layoffs in companies. So no one was actually hiring, everyone was firing. I don't know if you guys remember, but in April, we even had negative barrel prices, right? So it was good that I had this backup plan with the master's and that I applied ahead of time, because first of all, the deadlines for applications are usually in, by the end of the prior year, or maybe at the latest by like March of that year. And if you miss that, that's it. The train is gone, and you don't have a master's for a year. You don't have a job. You might have to have a gap year, and a gap year does not look nice on a resume. So it was good that I hedged myself, and I encourage you guys to also, after you graduate, either apply for, not either, but apply for masters and apply for jobs at the same time, just in case. You never know. You might never get. There might be a chance that you'll never get a job after your bachelor's, and that you'll need to go on and do a master's. But in my Master's of Science program, I was sponsored by Equinor, so I got an internship with them afterwards. And the internship was part of the program, so it's 12 months academic and 4 months industry placement. And my thesis was based on my internship at Equinor. But the good thing was, when I started my internship, I was already applying for jobs, and I went through the final stages of the application process with Wintershall Dea, and they liked me. So as soon as I finished my internship in December, I started working in January, and actually I even got my Master's of Science diploma in February. So after I started working, so that was a good situation. Now, one last thing I want to focus on this slide, and this is kind of the biggest slide for this presentation, so don't worry, it'll be faster afterwards. But the SPA aspect as well. I think SPE fits in perfectly into anyone's career path development for the future energy industry, because SPE really, I mean, I would say, sort of from stats, for example, from my cohorts, 25% of my my classmates got their internships from networking from SPE. So first of all, I can get you those first internships. SPE, I haven't heard so much people getting jobs from the organization, but I'm sure that happens maybe on a more experienced level. But I definitely have heard students getting internships based off of their relationships from SPE and the networking that they've done there. And so there's a powerful tool to get yourself an internship. In addition to that, SPE also provides a platform to speak, like I am right now, and for others who have research papers, again, if you're thinking PhD or master's, or just anything with regards to industry, or want to be, you know, more well-known around the industry, this is a great platform for that. And yeah, I think with SPE, you can show your potential employer that you're able to, again, commit to an organization for a long-term period of time on a voluntary basis as well, which shows your proactive nature even more to the employer. And my suggestion would be to take it slow with the organization. So when in your first year, join the program, join the organization, become a member, kind of see which committees you like. By the second year, you can become an active member of a committee, and, you know, start participating at the events, you know, start attending all the meetings. And once you've gained sort of the credibility, the respect, and the experience, by your third year, you can become the head of a committee, or maybe even seek a board member role. And definitely by your senior year, you can already apply for any board member role if you've stayed for that long with the organization, or you can even go for the president position. So that's sort of the takeaways from my journey, and they're kind of summed up here. I would also, this is sort of what I summarized for the years, each year, what kind of your main focuses should be, plus a little more sprinkled here. And then also for other notes, I would strongly suggest avoiding gap years unless there's a justified reason. Of course, if a tragedy happened in your family or something like that, it's completely understandable to have a period of time where you're not doing anything, you're recouping, and everyone understands that. But if you just decided to take a whole academic year without having any work experience at that time, or educational, or anything on the side, it just looks like you're, you know, a lethargic candidate. And frankly speaking, you wouldn't be the most attractive candidate maybe for some employers. So I would avoid them. In general, they don't give a nice aftertaste to your resume if you have them. I would also focus on the first internship, as I mentioned. It's very crucial. It's that first stepping stone to that ladder effect, that knock-on effect. And also to stay proactive in organizations, as I mentioned, notably in SPE for us petroleum engineers, but there's many other ones. There's EAGE. I know I'm not supposed to be promoting them at the SPE event, but nonetheless, I will mention them because they're all great organizations. AAPG, SPWLA, and EAGE also are big organizations in the oil and gas industry. So now let's talk a little bit about the history. Our history for our energy industry really depends on the commodity prices of natural gas and the oil price. And because of that, it's cyclical by nature. And because of that, we are at the mercy of politicians, of policy frameworks, of economics. We're at the mercy of many things, but we're also very much essential. And so I kind of wanted to brush over the past decades to see what are sort of the effects. on our industry and on the commodity prices which guide our industry. You can see from kind of this quick summary that I put here that we really, our oil price rises, for example, are very much fueled by political tensions in different regions of the world where we get our energy from. And whenever there's an issue of energy security or a question of that in Western countries, usually the oil price starts rising up quite extensively. And we're seeing that even right now with the conflict that is happening in Eastern Europe. In addition to economic effects, so the housing bubble that was in the 2000s that then popped, along with that bubble popped the oil price as well. So it peaked at 145 just before the bubble popped. And then when Lehman Brothers collapsed, you guys can Google that whole story. It's a very big, different side topic about economics. But after Lehman Brothers collapsed, the Brent bottomed out to $32 a barrel. And in the 2010s, we see the same effect. And I mean, I just wanted to show you these decades. I mean, this has been going on for, as long as oil has been around. We've always been affected by politics. But I just wanted to show you guys the decades that you guys lived through. And you probably remember some of these moments and some of these tensions. And you can see that really it's just the politics and the economics that's a lot of the time affecting the oil price, not the commodity, not supply and demand. So yeah, kind of the rules for our industry is we're at the mercy of politics, economics, and policy frameworks. We're strongly affected by supply and demand trends. So we are quite cyclical because of that. I would say right now we're in a boom cycle, but we go through many boom and bust cycles over the course of decades. But the crucial thing is that the oil industry, the energy industry has always been around. The commodities in the energy industry have changed, but we've always been around because we as the energy industry are indispensable to humanity's progress. We are what drives the world. And as long as there are people on this earth, there will be demand for energy and there will be companies like ours who provide it. So that's good to know and that gives us assurances. But let's look at the industry now. The past years have been really juicy and interesting. In 2020, we had the COVID pandemic breakout. We had tons of layoffs. You can see these headlines on the right here. And we even had negative oil prices. So that's never even seen before. To give you just a very quick explanation, the negative oil prices were because no one was using energy. Everyone was in lockdown during COVID. And at some point, all the storage facilities filled up. We had nowhere to store the oil. And people who were buying the futures for oil realized that they don't have the place to store it if they end up with this contract by expiry date. So they tried to pretty much find and pay people to take the oil off their shoulders, because if you don't sell that future by the expiry date, you will get that delivery of oil for that price that's written in that futures contract. So that's how it went negative. But in 2021, the price crept back up to $75 a barrel, quite good. And now in 2022, it's a new highs. So what's your game table? Well, you got strong oil demand now because we had no exploration going on in 2020, very little, not enough in 2021, and not enough even to this day. We don't have enough rigs. So the demand will be strong through this year and through next year, and political tensions are only increasing this demand. Companies are also much more cost effective than pre-2014. They understand that they can't be so highly leveraged as they were before. And leverage just means, you're stocked up on debt. But what's really important for you guys is that if you look at this chart on the right, the most people who are graduating from university in America for petroleum engineering degrees was 2017. That was the year with the highest graduations. And it's been sloping down since. That's because the batch with the highest number of people was 4 years before 2017. It was the 2013-2012 batch, the one right before the oil crisis in 2014. And so ever since it has been dropping, and by 2020, I had competition, let's say less than half. And then by your guys' time, you have 3 times less people graduating than were back in 2017. So you really have low competition because there was low enrollment rates from through the 2010s for petroleum degrees. Lots of people who were, already at an old age in these companies were put on early retirement during COVID. So there were lots of layoffs, lots of people were forced to leave. And then there was also the great resignation effect, which you can also read. It's a social move. It's not a movement, it's a trend where people are just shifting from position to position because there's so much fluidity to switch jobs right now. But lots of people left the oil and gas industry. So there's really a shortage of employees, and you guys are really predisposed to be in a good situation in terms of employment opportunities and chances. And there's no hiring freezes like there were when I graduated the bachelor's. but you do still have residual competition from previous years. There's some people who still didn't get hired from 2021 and 2020, and they will be competing with you, and they might have more experience than you by this point because they might have been doing something on the side after they graduated. And you also have other STEM majors because now the oil and gas industry is welcoming STEM majors. So yeah, who's in demand? I've been talking about STEM a lot. So in demand, everyone really is. The drillers are, the production engineers, the reservoir, subsea engineers, everyone really is in demand in our industry at the moment. And it's for those very reasons that we just have not enough specialized skilled labor within our companies at the moment due to what happened in 2020 and what's happening now. But if you're doing general engineering degree right now, my key suggestions would be to focus on data science, which is in trend right now, especially learning Python, learning coding, how to translate, your analytical models into something numerical. Data management is also a big thing right now. So knowing Microsoft's Power BI systems, for example, is very convenient. Also being multilingual is quite crucial because really, at least Wintershall Dea for sure, we have a very kind of multilingual and diverse groups. We really have lots of employees from all across the world, and having effective communication is important. And when you can speak many languages, you can communicate more effectively with more people. And then also having experience with natural gas. So there is an energy transition. People say it's to renewable energies. I beg to differ, and I'd say right now it's to natural gas. And I think it's, I'm seeing more and more demand and more recruiters asking if candidates have natural gas experience. So I think it would be useful. And then for petroleum and reservoir engineers in particular, I would say carbon capture and storage is very trendy at the moment. Also assisted history matching using, gradient-based, algorithm-based methods. That's very much in trend and needed, and core digitalization as well. But that's more for petrophysics. So to wrap up this presentation, what would be a composition of a good ideal graduate candidate for the energy industry? Well, they would be agile, genuine, hardworking, proactive, and receptive. I can go into the details of each word and why I selected these particular words, but if you Google the definition, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You just have to be a very mobile person who's very adaptive to change, because change is happening so fast. I mean, especially in these past 2 years. Also having hobbies, a set of hobbies, again, as I said, active ones, showing that you're proactive in life, very crucial, I believe. Having a master's of science degree if you're applying for operator positions, and definitely a bachelor's of science if you're applying for oil field service companies is a must, and having a good GPA as well is important. But at this point, STEM majors are fine because, again, you're seeing data science, data management, assisted history matching, they're all in demand, and they all require not just engineering, but also coding skills, analytical skills, and STEM majors possess that in general. It's not just engineers who possess it. Also 1 or 2 internships in the oil and gas industry would be great, and maybe 2 to 3 total work experiences by the end of your master's, let's say, once you start applying for jobs. Organizational participation, as I mentioned, sorry, and no unsubstantiated gaps or gap years, pardon me, not leap years, but gap years. That's also quite important. And yeah, in general, a graduate is considered to be a person who has graduated less than 3 years from their master's of science. And in general has to be below 30 years old of age, because if you're above that age, then you're considered more for experience hire already. So I think that's it from my side, and I think I'm right on time, or maybe a little bit over. But thank you for inviting me to the organizational committee. It's been a pleasure organizing this event last year. It's a pleasure to attend it this year and present. And if you have any questions, please just LinkedIn, Google my name. You can write to me anytime. I'll reply within a day or two, and I can help you out with anything you'd like. So yeah, thank you very much.
Robert, thanks a lot for the presentation. Indeed, purely engineering approach to your presentation, like with proof of every word that you're saying. Excellent. Thank you very much. It's been really, we really enjoyed. I'm pretty sure all of us enjoyed the presentation.
Yeah. And yeah, you can share the screenshots of the presentation in social media as well. I'll ask if I'm allowed to send a full copy of it, but definitely you can share the screenshots because it was approved by my corporate communications.
Great. Yes,
Okay.
and we're open to questions. You can drop them in the chat box, or ask them straightly. Unmuting yourself.
Yeah, I'm seeing Fiona ask a question. I want to ask,
Yep.
is there an industry or company that you think that has the potential to develop this energy future? Maybe several companies that are engaged in green energy. Can you give some examples? Well, I mean, I'm coming from a reservoir engineering perspective. I think we as energy companies have a sort of intellectual advantage and kind of knowledge and experience in terms of, for example, carbon capture, or I mean, just fluids capture, fluid storage, fluids injection, production as well, right? And so, for example, for CCS purposes, we're pretty well equipped in terms of our skill sets. So I think that's something that what we call oil and gas companies can adapt to. But in general, what I'm trying to stress is our industry, we are an energy industry. It's just the commodity of the day is oil and gas. But with time, it might be just natural gas. And with time, it might be natural gas and then a CCS company, right? And then it might turn into a natural gas, wind, solar, and CCS, right? So it changes, the commodity changes with time, but the industry doesn't change. It's still the energy industry. So I think our industry is actually quite well equipped for this future. We have the skill sets needed for energy transport, which is, you could apply that to solar and wind and geothermal and anything. And anything that's also underground, like for example, geothermal as well, we're quite well equipped in terms of drilling, in terms of fluid circulations. So I think our industry is pretty well equipped for that. I wouldn't consider other ones to be competitive with us.
Thanks for the answer.
Okay.
I think okay, there are no more questions. I think it's time to it's time to switch to the next part. Picha, Gideon. Yeah, Robert, thank you very much. Again, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much as well. Cheers.
Thank you, Robert, for the excellent presentation. Now, as a token of gratitude, we also prepared a memento of appreciation for our speaker. I would also like to call Evan Fadil as the president of SPEYSC 2022 to present the memento to Robert. For Evan, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Icha, for welcoming me. Hello, everyone. A wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening time to all of you. Firstly, I want to express my utmost gratitude to our honorable guests, Mr. Tom Blessingam, Mr. Henricus Herwin, and Mr. Olivier, for sparing your time this year's Student Chapter Development Workshop. Secondly, my highest appreciation to Robert for sharing your insights about career pathways for the future energy industry. I found a lot of very insightful information, such as advice to craft our career journey, SPE's role in shaping your professional networking, as well as strategy to pursue a career in the petroleum industry by analyzing some trend going on the global prices. It's really, really insightful information, surely for all of us. And I feel really glad that one moment we gather on the same platform, sharing shared interesting career discussions and get one step closer as future change makers in the petroleum industry. So it's an honor for me as the representative from Universitas Indonesia Student Chapter to present this memento to you. And we couldn't have a wonderful discussion this day as you to be the speaker and also part of the founding team on the last year Student Chapter Development Workshop. So thank you so much, Robert.
As well, thank you. And it was a pleasure last year to work with UI and to host the event. And it's a pleasure this year to be a part of it as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think we can now take a picture together with this memento. I will count from 1 to 3. Okay, on 1, 2, 3. Say SPE, guys. SPE.
SPE.
Okay, thank you so much, Robert, for the presentation and everything. And now we will move on to our next agenda, which is the group discussion. This group discussion, which will be divided into 7 topics. The first topic is preparing a lead generation for millennials. Second topic, jump into oil and gas competitions such as Petrobol competitions and student paper competitions. Third topic, self-branding and reputation management. Fourth topic, student to young professional conversion. Fifth topic, improving international recognition and chapters award. Sixth topic, sustainability and community activities. Seventh topic, improving professional engagement and company partnerships. So all participants, please wait to be assigned to your preferred breakout room. Thank you.